Hey guys, my name's Alicia, and if you don't know who I am, I make thrifting videos every single week. And now that spring has officially sprung, I thought, what better way to celebrate the start of the season than to do some thrift flips? The warm weather always tends to inspire me, so today we are going to be thrift flipping 3 different dresses that are going to be perfect for spring. So for the first thrift flip, I wanted to start off with the one that I was most excited to create. And I have been on the hunt for the perfect 90s floral and denim combination dress for a while now, but have had no luck finding one. But a few months ago now, my friend Kathleen actually sent me over 2 dresses and came up with the genius idea of just combining the 2 to make my dream dress. And in that same video, I actually talked about how I was struggling to style this top, and one of my viewers actually had the brilliant idea of instead combining the top with the dress Kathleen gave me, which makes so much sense, and I cannot believe I didn't think of that myself. So thank you so much to that viewer who came up with that idea, because that is exactly what we're going to be doing for this first thrift flip. So first off, we're going to be cutting the skirt portion off of the dress. The reason I cut this instead of seam ripping it is 1, because it's easier, and 2, because the dress actually had some really nice pleats sewn in that I actually wanted to keep. So once the skirt's detached, we can actually take our top and our skirt and combine them together by pinning the skirt to the inside of the top. Once it's all pinned, all we have to do is sew it together. And at this point, I decided to try the dress on, and I was faced with a little bit of a dilemma. Okay, this is what the dress looks like along, and I like it, but I'm kind of thinking of cutting it into a mini. I feel like I'll get more wear out of it that way. So I did in fact decide to turn this into a mini dress. So I marked with pins where I wanted the skirt to end, making sure to allow for seam allowance. And then I went ahead and started cutting it out. Because this dress did have a grid pattern on it, it actually made it really easy to just follow that grid line and make the perfect cut. So we don't want to be left with this raw edge. So I proceeded to do a double folded hem by ironing it, pinning it down, and then sewing it in place. Then, because I had all of this extra fabric from the bottom of the skirt that I cut off, I thought it would be so cute to use it to create a matching headband. So I started by cutting out 2 rectangles and then sewing them into tubes. Once my tubes were flipped inside out, I then fed an elastic through the smaller tube and sewed them all together. I am absolutely in love with how this dress turned out. The 2 pieces just go so well together. I mean, the way the blue flowers on the dress match the blue in the denim. Both pieces kind of have this wrinkly texture to them. And the buttons on this top are even flowers, which obviously match perfect with the floral print. So honestly, I truly feel like these 2 pieces were so meant to be together. And I am so happy I decided to make the matching headband, because I think it really just pulls the whole look together. And I love a little matching moment. I did end up having more fabric left over, so I actually did make a second matching headband that I am going to be giving away. So if you want to be matching with me, just comment down below that you're interested in the headband and just leave your Instagram handle so I could choose a winner in a couple of weeks. Moving right along to the second thrift flip, if you guys thought this dress was going to be spared from its DIY fate, you were wrong, because we're actually going to be using it as the base for this next thrift flip. I got a lot of inspo for this one from Pinterest, where I was seeing a ton of these like denim applique style garments, and I just thought it looked so cool and I really wanted to recreate it. A lot of the shapes I was seeing were stars, flowers, but I think hearts are going to be perfect for this sweet little denim dress. So firstly, I picked out this old pair of jeans that I thought the colors of would really complement the colors of the dress. I created a little paper heart stencil and then used that to cut out heart shapes out of the denim. I actually want these heart patches to serve as pockets as well, so we are going to go ahead and do a little preliminary stitch around the edges of the heart just to prevent them from completely fraying. I originally wanted to match the thread to the thread colors of the dress, which was this like classic golden denim type stitching, which I didn't have, so instead I decided to go with white. But if I were to do this again, I'd probably just stick with a color that was kind of more invisible to that darker denim. Next, you can just choose a placement of where you want these hearts to be on the dress, and once you're happy with it, just pin them in place. So now we can actually go ahead and sew them onto the dress. Just make sure to avoid the top half of the heart if you do want these to be functional pockets. And for a little extra added detail, I decided to cut out 2 more smaller hearts just to add them to the collar of this dress to really tie the whole thing together. This was such a simple thrift flip that really took this dress to the next level and added just a little bit more personality to it. I love the two tones of denim in this dress and that the pockets are actually fully functional. And I think over time, those edges will get even more frayed and look a lot more similar to the Pinterest photos. But what I also really like about this DIY is that it's non-destructive. So if I ever get tired of these hearts, I can simply just seam rip them off and the dress will be completely back to normal. So for the last thrift flip, I really wanted to go all out and create a dress completely from scratch. A while ago now, I actually picked up this fabric from the thrift store, thinking that it would probably make the perfect skirt or dress. I just wasn't sure at the time what I wanted to create with it. So when Jenna Phipps actually recently recommended this free pattern from Mood Fabrics, I thought it would be the perfect project for this fabric. So I started by laying my sewing patterns onto the fabric, and there was literally like just enough fabric to make this dress work. And this dress pattern is super simple with just a front, back, and then a little bit of an inner lining along with the straps. But I did want to customize it a little bit by adding slits on the sides and ties for the back. And the key I learned to sewing this kind of like more delicate fabric is to actually sew it with tissue paper underneath. This just kind of helps keep everything stable and keeps your thread from like bunching all the fabric together. And it honestly worked like a charm, so highly recommend. So firstly, I just wanted to get all of the straps out of the way, so went ahead, folded them in half, sewed them into little tubes, and flipped them right side out. Once my straps were prepped, I needed to address the little side slits that I wanted to add. So I took each side of my dress and basically did like a little side double folded hem up until the point I wanted the slit to start. I then just went ahead, sewed them in place to make sure those edges were nice and clean. Next, it was time to attach the main parts of the dress together. Now, this pattern didn't really recommend a specific way to finish off your seams, and I just wanted something that was going to be professional. So I started doing some research when I discovered the French seam. And I cannot believe in my 3 years of like on and off sewing that I've never heard of this seam before or have never attempted it, because it was so simple and so effective. This TikTok in particular helped me a lot, but basically what you're going to do is sew your fabric wrong sides together, then flip it inside out and sew once more. This basically creates the perfect seam with no exposed raw edges on the inside. So I was like mind blown by this method and definitely wanted to apply it to this dress. So I placed my front and back dress pieces wrong sides together and pinned them in place. This is also the part where you do want to add your back straps if you have them, and then you can just sew it all down. Once the dress is sewn together, you do want to trim down your seam allowance just so that those raw edges don't end up sticking out after the end of your French seam. So now we can flip the dress inside out and sew once again along those sides. And as you can see, you get a really nice clean seam on the outside and no raw edges on the inside. Now we can go ahead and attach our inner lining pieces together using the exact same method. Once that's done, we can take our inner lining and lay it on top of the outside of the dress, right sides together, pinning it in place. When pinning, this is the point where you also want to add your straps. So just make sure you add them from underneath, if that makes sense. I'll put up the little diagram, and then you can go ahead, sew that all together. Then once you flip that right sides out, you'll see that the straps are nice and attached and the dress is nearly complete. All we have to do is the hem, which I just finished like all of my dresses with that double rolled hem and sewed it in place. I am so impressed with this dress. I think the floral print just looks so good with this cut of dress and everything just lays so nicely. I'm really glad I added the little back tie. It just gives a little more shape to the dress. The length of the dress is honestly kind of weird. It basically just hits my knees, so not really a mini, not really a maxi, but I honestly really like it. Although I do think it's not quite long enough to really show off the side slits because they're kind of not that noticeable, but overall I'm still glad that I did add them. And structurally, I think this is my best piece I have ever made just because of the French seams and just how delicate the fabric was. I really had to take my time with every single stitch, so I think it all came together really, really well. So if you were thinking of making this pattern, highly recommend. So those are all the dresses that I ended up making for this thrift flip, and I genuinely think they all turned out so good. Like, I cannot wait to wear all of them. But of course, you guys let me know what your favorite was. I also did just want to quickly mention that I did actually just hit 5,000 subscribers, which is so exciting for me. That was such a major goal of mine. So thank you to everyone who's been watching and subscribing. And if you're not subscribed, maybe consider it. So with that being said, don't forget to enter the giveaway if you're interested in winning this little headband, because I'll end up picking a winner exactly 2 weeks from when this video is posted. But as always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you next week.